There's a strange kind of hatred that appears only after love. It doesn't arrive like anger. It doesn't scream or beg or curse. It waits like a shadow in the corner of your chest. You think you've moved on? You tell your friends you're over her. You delete the photos. You block her. Convince yourself she was toxic, manipulative, crazy. But deep inside, some part of you still tightens when you hear her name. You don't just hate her. You hate what she made you feel. That's the part no one wants to admit. That underneath the stories we tell about the women who hurt us, she lied. She ghosted. She changed. There is another truth buried under the ego as rubble. She saw something in you that you didn't want seen. And that's why you can't forget her. Carl Jung called this the shadow, the repressed part of the psyche that holds everything you want to face. Your weakness, your rage, your helplessness, your confusion. Over time, we build a personality that hides these parts. We learn to be the man, confident, rational, put together. But then a woman comes along, and somehow, without trying, she reaches right into the chest of your carefully constructed self and pulls out the chaos. Not because she's cruel, not because she's evil, but because that's what intimacy does. Okay? You hate her for it, because you can't hate yourself. Not yet. It's too hard. So instead, you put it on her. She becomes the scapegoat for your own unconscious. She becomes the symbol of what you aren't ready to see. Jung warned that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. But most of us stop at the irritation. We never move into the understanding. We get stuck in blame because blame is easier than reflection. And so she becomes your enemy, the one who exposed you, the one who stirred the part of you that cries, that aches, that remembers the boy inside the man, the one who wasn't protected, the one who still wants to be loved without having to perform. But she didn't play the role you wrote for her. She didn't save you. She didn't soothe you. She didn't worship the version of you were trying so hard to maintain. She saw through it, okay? And instead of applauding your mask, she challenged it. She asked questions that made your voice shake. She responded to your strength with silence. She didn't react the way she was supposed to. And worst of all, she walked away. Not because you weren't enough, but because you weren't real. And that's the wound. That's the cut that bleeds long after she's gone. 'Cause deep down, you know, she didn't reject your value. She rejected your performance. She refused to play your fantasy. She left you to deal with your own reflection and called it love. When a woman triggers your shadow, it's rarely loud. It's subtle. You feel it in the moments she looks at you without admiration, just presence, when she doesn't rush to comfort you. When she sits calmly while you lose control, you call her cold, motionless, unfeeling. But maybe she was the first person who didn't reward your false self. And maybe, just maybe, that's why it felt like hatred. Because when the mask is ripped away, what's underneath isn't anger, it's shame. And shame, unprocessed, always turns outward. You call her manipulative because you felt manipulated by your own need. You call her narcissistic because you projected all your power onto her. You call her cruel because she refused to rescue you from yourself. But was it cruelty? Or was it clarity? Was it abandonment? Or was it the first real mirror you've ever faced? Jung said that one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. And she, the woman you now say you hate, was the darkness made conscious, not because she was dark, but because she showed you your own. She made you feel weak, small, uncertain, emotional. And instead of embracing it, you ran, you fought, you blamed. But now, the dust is settling, and you're still haunted. Not by her, but by the you that only existed in her presence. Because here's the truth. The hatred is not the end of the story. It's the beginning. It's the signal that something wants to be integrated. That the self you buried is asking to be felt. That the boy inside the man is still waiting to be claimed. not by a woman, but by you. She was never the monster, okay? She was just a mirror. We don't fall in love with people. We fall in love with symbols, with echoes of our past, with stories that our unconscious mind desperately wants to finish. And when it comes to women, men project with religious intensity. You don't just see a woman. You see your salvation. You see the tenderness you were denied, the mother you didn't fully have, the validation you've never quite been able to give yourself. Jung called this projection when an inner psychological content is displaced onto another person, and they've become the screen for your inner film. The more unresolved your inner world is, the more intense the projection. And women, especially emotionally complex or distant ones, become prime targets for it. She isn't just beautiful, she's divine. She isn't just smart, she's mystical. She isn't just independent, she's untouchable. It becomes Aphrodite, the muse, the rescuer, the ideal. But the truth is, she's just a woman, flesh and blood, confused and imperfect, just like you. The love you think you feel isn't love. It's recognition. You not drawn to her. You redrawn to the part of yourself that you buried and that she happens to awaken. The tragedy is that this projection is unconscious. You don't know you're doing it. And because you don't know, you begin to worship her and then resent her for not being the fantasy you created. At first, you pedestal her. You give her your attention, your time, your soul. You study her, analyze her, become intoxicated by her patterns, her words, her silence. You think, if I can decode her, I'll finally earn her. But it's not her you're trying to win. It's your sense of worth, your place in the world, your unresolved boyhood ache to be seen. She's simply triggered it, and this is why hatred follows. Because when she fails to live up to the fantasy, when she becomes human, when she sets boundaries, when she rejects you, your entire emotional system collapses. You blame her, say, she led me on, she used me, she didn't care. But beneath the story, there is a deeper truth. You created the game. She never agreed to be the goddess. She never asked for your worship. She may not have even known what she stirred in you. And yet, you made her the keeper of your worth. And when she dropped it, your entire structure crumbled. That's not on her. That's projection, Jung said. The more projections are thrust in between the subject and the environment, the harder it is for the ego to see reality. You weren't seeing her. You were seeing a dream. And now that the dream is broken, the pain is unbearable. It's not because she left, not because she rejected you, but because the part of you she held, the buried, fragile, needy part, was exposed. And you weren't ready to hold it yourself. So instead, you lash out. You name her the villain. You call her cold, manipulative, emotionally unavailable. You externalize the wound. You make her the enemy. Because if she's the problem, then you don't have to look inside. But deep down, you know that this isn't just about her. It's about the shame of being seen, of being vulnerable, of needing someone so badly that it makes you feel weak. And in a world that tells men that weakness is failure, what else can you do but hate the one who exposed it? The woman becomes a threat, not because she harmed you, but because she saw the parts of you that you haven't accepted, and that is unbearable. So you attack her, not with fists, but with stories. You rewrite the past. You tell yourself she was fake, that her affection was manipulation, that she never really cared. You distort the memory until it protects you from the raw truth. She triggered something real, something old, and instead of facing it, you fled. This is the pattern. Okay, projection gives worship, gives rejection, gives hatred. But what if, instead of hating her, you turned inward? What if you traced the pain back to its source? What if you asked, what was I hoping she would heal? That's the real work. It's that S. The moment you stop using women to regulate your self-worth and start reclaiming what you've outsourced. She is not your mother. She is not your mirror. She is not your unfinished poem. She is not the guardian of your forgotten innocence. She is just a person. The work is not to make her wrong, it's to make yourself whole. The hatred is a mask. Underneath it is grief. Grief for the boy inside you who was never taught how to hold his own pain. Grief for the love you gave too freely. Grief for the self you abandoned in the pursuit of being chosen. And that grief is sacred. It's not weakness. Admit, it's not victimhood. It's the doorway to becoming a man who no longer needs to hate the woman who left, because he is finally learning to stay with himself. The fear doesn't begin with her. It begins long before her. It begins in the boyhood moments you buried, the moments where your emotions were too much, your needs were too loud, your sensitivity was too inconvenient. You learned quickly. Don't cry. Don't show weakness. Don't speak unless you're useful. Over time, you became the mask. You built your masculinity like armor, thick, silent, sharp-edged. You learned how to be strong, admired, even feared, be not loved, because to be loved, you'd have to be seen, and to be seen, you'd have to be vulnerable. That's what she touched. It's why you hate her. She didn't hurt you. She saw you. She reached beneath the layers you thought were untouchable and found the place you've been avoiding your entire life. It's not to mock you, not to expose you, but because that's what the feminine does. It feels, penetrates in a different way, not through force, but through presence, through intuition, through emotional gravity. Saying, when a woman is deeply rooted in her feminine, she becomes a mirror you can't control. That terrifies the masculine ego, because the ego depends on control, on image, on narrative, okay? And she disrupts that simply by existing in truth. She doesn't respond to the things you do to impress. She doesn't care about your logic when your energy is closed. She doesn't believe your certainty when your heart is afraid. She sees behind it. The moment you realize she sees, you feel exposed, not physically, but emotionally, existentially. Illusion cracks. The man you've been pretending to be starts to crumble, okay? And the boy who's been hiding underneath begins to panic. That panic turns into resistance. The resistance becomes frustration, and the frustration, if unexamined, becomes projection. You start saying she's the problem, that she's too emotional, too complicated, too intense. But what you really mean is, she touched something I didn't want to feel, and now I don't know what to do with it. So I'll blame her. I'll push her away. I'll label her unstable, too much, unsafe, because it's easier to demonize the mirror than to see what it's reflecting. But here's the truth. The feminine, when it's real, is not safe. Not in the way your ego wants it to be. It doesn't stroke your pride or support your illusions. It doesn't validate the mask or breaks it. Not because it wants to destroy you, but because it wants the real you. And the real you is buried under years of performance. That's why her presence hurts. That's why her honesty stings. That's why her departure feels like betrayal, because you thought she would help you maintain the illusion. Instead, she became the storm that washed it away. And here's the paradox. She may love you deeply, but if she senses that you're more loyal to your mask than to your soul, she'll leave. Not because she wants to, but because she has to. The feminine needs truth. And if you can't meet her there, she will go looking for it elsewhere. And you will sit with your rage, your emptiness, your wounded pride, and you'll say she abandoned you. But the truth is, she was never with you. She was with your potential. She was with the man behind the mask. And when it became clear that he wasn't ready to emerge, she let go. That is not cruelty. That is sacred boundary, okay? And if you're brave enough to admit it, you'll see that her leaving wasn't rejection. It was initiation, an invitation to go deeper, to peel back the layers, okay? To find the part of you that is real. It's part that doesn't need to perform, the part that is willing to feel, even when it hurts. Okay? That's where your freedom begins. That's where your hate dissolves. Okay? Because now you're not resisting the mirror, you're stepping into it. You're seeing what she saw, and you're not afraid anymore. You're grateful because she didn't destroy you. she revealed you. And in doing so, she gave you a chance, not to get her back, but to come back to yourself. It doesn't happen all at once. The fantasy doesn't shatter like glass. It melts slowly, painfully. You hold on longer than you should. You replay the conversations, the silences, the tiny moments when you thought she was still with you. But underneath the ache, something deeper is happening. A death, not of her, but of the version of you who needed her to feel whole. You begin to see it, that it wasn't love, it was longing. It was a search for meaning, for redemption, for the lost pieces of your selfhood, and she fit the shape of that wound perfectly. You called it chemistry, you called it fate. It was a mirror, okay? And now that the mirror is gone, you are left with what it showed you. The grief isn't for her, it's for you. It's for the years you spent mistaking intensity for love, for the parts of yourself you handed away like offerings, for the boy inside you who begged to be chosen and was shattered when he wasn't. And that grief is holy. It is not something to suppress, it is something to hold. Because this is what it means to mature, not to harden, but to soften, not to shut down, but to awaken. You stop asking why she left and start asking what she revealed. You stop blaming her for what she couldn't give and start giving it to yourself. The validation, the gentleness, the permission to feel. This is where you begin to reclaim what was never hers to carry. She was not your mother, not your healer, not your judge. She was the match that lit the fire. But you are the one who must walk through it. And as you walk, the illusions fall away. The illusion that women owe you softness. It's the illusion that love means being saved. The illusion that power is about control. You begin to understand what the masculine truly is. Not performance, but presence. Not domination, but depth. Not seduction, but stillness. The kind of stillness that doesn't need to be admired, only known. And from this place, something changes. You no longer need her to come back. You no longer fantasize about being chosen. You no longer chase ghosts because you have returned to yourself. Not perfectly, not completely, but honestly. And that honesty makes you powerful. It's the power of a man who has faced himself and didn't flinch, who has held his grief without turning it into bitterness, who has touched his pain without making others pay for it. That kind of man doesn't need to prove anything. He is not loud. He is not reactive. He does not chase what doesn't want him. He respects the mystery of the feminine without trying to possess it. He honors his emotions without drowning in them. He knows how to give without losing himself. And in doing so, he becomes what he was always meant to be. Not a boy playing a part, but a man standing in truth. You no longer hate her. Not because she was right, not because she comes back, but because you understand now. She was the doorway. And you were the one who had to walk through. Alone. That loneliness was never punishment. It was the path. And now, on the other side of it, you can breathe again, okay? Not because the pain is gone, but because it finally has a place. A place inside you that is no longer denied, no longer projected, no longer feared. It is yours now, and no one can take that from you. Not even her. You don't recognize the man you used to be. It's the one who needed her attention like air. The one who over-explained, over-apologized, over-promised, over-pursued. If you know someone who's living this story, share it with them. And if you're ready for more truth, not comfort, you know what to do. You see him now with gentleness, not shame. He was surviving, didn't know any better. He was trying to get love the only way he'd learned, by earning it, by performing, by pretending to have no needs, and then quietly resenting that no one met them. He thought that being chosen would finally erase the ache, but the ache was never hers to erase. It was his. It was yours. And now, you feel it differently, not as a whole, but as a depth, a place within you that holds pain like a chalice, not to wallow, but to remember that you've been here. that you survived yourself, that the man you are today is not built on validation, but on truth. And from that truth, something unexpected rises. The ability to love again, not with grasping, not with fantasy, but with presence. You no longer need the feminine to complete you. You can meet her now, eye to eye, breath to breath, without needing her to be anything other than who she is. That's what makes you safe, not passive, not nice, but safe, because you are rooted in your own center. You do not collapse when she withdraws. You do not explode when she speaks her truth. You do not chase when she needs space. 2. You stay still, not because you dainty feel, but because you've trained yourself to feel without flinching. And in that stillness, she feels something too. She feels the presence she always craved, but never trusted. She feels the difference between a man who needs her love to feel whole. She said a man who's already whole enough to love her without fear. And now, whether she returns or not, whether she stays or goes, you are no longer waiting. You are living. The projection is gone. The worship is gone. The hate is gone. What remains is gratitude for what she showed you, for what she stirred, for what she broke, because it needed breaking. And now you carry that lesson like a compass into every moment, every connection, every choice. You know now what most men never learn, that no woman can fix the wound of the man who refuses to meet himself. That the feminine is not a bomb, she is a mirror. And the man who cannot face that mirror will spend his life running, blaming, conquering, collapsing. But not you, not anymore. Because you've turned toward the reflection, you've stepped into it. You faced the boy you once abandoned and said, "I'm here now," and he believed you. And together, you walk, not toward her, not toward some fantasy, but toward your own becoming. And that is the love you were always chasing. Not hers, yours. If you saw yourself in this, quietly hit like,